What if humanity's greatest treasure wasn't gold, or diamonds, or empires, but knowledge? And what if the single largest collection of human knowledge ever gathered vanished, leaving us centuries behind where we could have been today? The Library of Alexandria is one of history's most haunting mysteries. Built in ancient Egypt around the 3rd century BCE, it was said to hold hundreds of thousands of scrolls that may have contained everything from advanced mathematics and astronomy to medicine and engineering. Some even believe it preserved maps of distant worlds, long before Europeans dared to cross the oceans. But then, it was gone. Lost to fire, war, or neglect. We don't know for sure. What we do know is this: if it had survived, the world you live in today might look unrecognizable. Imagine Rome not just with aqueducts and chariots, but with engines, factories, and electricity. If the scrolls of ancient engineers had survived, the Roman Empire might have sparked its own industrial revolution over 1,000 years before England. Picture Roman soldiers traveling by rail instead of horseback, fleets of mechanical ships crossing oceans, or even early prototypes of flying machines. It sounds impossible, but we know thinkers like Archimedes were already toying with machines centuries ahead of their time. What if their ideas hadn't been lost? Now think about medicine. If Egyptian, Indian, and Greek medical texts had been preserved, treatments for deadly diseases could have emerged centuries earlier. The plagues that ravaged Europe might have been blunted or prevented altogether. Vaccines, surgical techniques, even early antibiotics could have been discovered long before the modern age. And what about space? Astronomers in Alexandria were already measuring the size of the Earth with astonishing accuracy. If their star charts and theories had been passed down, humanity might have understood the cosmos far earlier. Could we have reached the moon in the 1600s instead of 1969? Could we already be living among the stars? It's a breathtaking possibility that the destruction of one library may have cost humanity centuries of progress. But before we get carried away, we need to ask a deeper question. What knowledge did it really contain? We've imagined the world that could have been. But to really understand the weight of what was lost, we have to ask, what kind of knowledge did the Library of Alexandria actually hold? The painful truth is that we'll never know for certain. No catalogue survived, no inventory of its scrolls was ever recovered. What we're left with is speculation, fragments, and clues from history. But those clues point to something extraordinary. Take medicine. The Egyptians were already performing surgeries, setting bones, and using natural remedies thousands of years ago. The Greeks added anatomy and experimentation. India had ancient texts describing surgical instruments and even plastic surgery techniques. If these works were gathered in Alexandria, humanity may have had access to cures centuries before their rediscovery. Imagine smallpox wiped out in the Roman Empire, or the Black Death neutralized before it could spread. Then there's mathematics and engineering. Archimedes alone was said to have designed war machines, water pumps, and ideas for mechanical power that wouldn't reappear until the modern age. What if his lost texts described engines, pulleys, or even the principles of steam? Rome might have built machines that could transform their empire into something resembling a modern superpower. And astronomy. The Greek scholar Eratosthenes calculated the Earth's circumference with near-perfect accuracy more than 2,000 years ago. If his work, and others like it, had survived intact, humanity might have understood its place in the universe long before Galileo or Newton. Telescopes, star charts, maybe even theories of planetary motion could have accelerated science by centuries. Some historians believe the library may have even contained records from lost civilizations' knowledge so ancient it has no surviving trace today. If that's true, then what was destroyed wasn't just a collection of scrolls, it was an entire alternate timeline of human progress. It's one thing to imagine Rome with steam engines or medieval Europe with vaccines. But let's push further. What if the Library of Alexandria had never been destroyed and humanity carried that knowledge all the way to today? Our modern world could look radically different. Imagine diseases like cancer or Alzheimer's already cured centuries ago. With uninterrupted medical progress, lifespans might stretch far beyond what we know now, perhaps well past 120 or even 150 years. Human health could be so advanced that conditions we still struggle with today would be nothing more than footnotes in history books. Technology would also be decades, maybe even centuries ahead. If the early principles of steam, electricity, and mechanics had survived and evolved, we could already be living in a world powered by limitless clean energy. Fusion power, something scientists are only beginning to unlock, might have been harnessed generations ago. Instead of asking if we'll colonize Mars, we might already have thriving human settlements across the solar system. And then there's artificial intelligence. The foundations of logic and computation go back to the ancient world. Thinkers like Aristotle laid down the first rules of reasoning. What if those texts, combined with lost engineering knowledge, had created a head start? Instead of discovering AI in the 20th century, humanity might have built it in the 1800s or earlier. That means we could already be living in a society where machines handle work while humans focus purely on exploration, art, and knowledge. But perhaps the greatest change would be cultural. With thousands of years of preserved history, philosophy, and science, humanity might have avoided centuries of ignorance and dark ages. Imagine a world without massive gaps in progress, without repeating the same mistakes over and over. A world where war and superstition gave way to a shared pursuit of wisdom. It's impossible to know exactly what would have happened, but if the library had survived, one thing is certain. The modern world we see today would look far less like the 21st century and far more like the future we're still struggling to reach. And this is where the tragedy of the Library of Alexandria hits the hardest. Because when we imagine that alternate present, the cures, the technology, the space colonies, we're reminded of a painful truth. Knowledge is fragile. One spark, one act of destruction, can delay the course of human progress by centuries. That's not just a lesson from the past, it's a warning for us right now. We like to think we're safe in the digital age, where everything is stored on servers and clouds. But digital knowledge is even more vulnerable. A massive cyber attack, a solar flare, or the collapse of global infrastructure could wipe out more data in a single moment than the Library of Alexandria ever held. The same fragility exists today, only on a bigger scale. And it isn't just disasters. Knowledge disappears quietly all the time. Languages vanish. Oral traditions die with the elders who carried them. Ancient manuscripts sit untranslated in forgotten archives. Even online, information can be erased, censored, or hidden behind paywalls. In many ways, our modern Library of Alexandria is already burning slowly, silently, without the dramatic flames. That's why its story matters. The loss of Alexandria isn't only about what was taken from the past, it's about the responsibility we hold in the present. If knowledge is the engine of progress, then protecting it is the duty of every generation. Because if the greatest library in history could vanish, so can ours. The Library of Alexandria is more than a story of loss. It's a challenge to us, to guard our knowledge, to share it, and to never take it for granted. Because next time, the setback might not just cost us centuries, it could cost us our future. The Library of Alexandria stands as one of the greatest what-ifs in human history. Its loss shaped the world we live in and robbed us of the one we'll never see. So maybe the real question isn't, what if the Library of Alexandria was never destroyed? The real question is this: what knowledge are we losing right now without even noticing? And that's where I'll leave it to you. What do you think the world would look like if the library had survived? Would we already be exploring the stars, living in a disease-free society? Or would humanity still have found a way to hold itself back? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your what-if scenario. And remember, history isn't just about the past, it's about the future we choose to build.